Have you ever thought to yourself, how much do I really spend on my health? How much do I spend on my family's health? Not just health care, but on the health of our bodies. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight, is the price of good health. You know, many of us weigh out choices. And we're going to talk about choices that you're going to be weighing out this evening in regards to your health. But one of the biggest things that I recognize is that most people are unaware of exactly what the health of their body is. And I love this definition. It's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely an absence of disease or infirmity. That's a wonderful combination. We realize that in looking at that definition of health, there's more than one thing. In fact, I love the idea of Webster's dictionary where they quantify it. It's your body working at 100%. So when we think about what health is, when we think about, the different components of health, we have to ask ourselves, how much are we going to invest in that most precious thing? In fact, many of you have probably heard that old saying that health is that hardest thing in life to regain. It's the most costly thing for us to actually bring back. Because in the end, as Americans, we spend a tremendous amount of money in the healthcare sector. $4.4 trillion were spent in 2002 on health care. That's a remarkable number. $4.4 trillion. That averages over $10,805 per person in the United States. That's a huge number when we think about what that is per capita. And I want you to sit back and I just want you to think about the dollars that you spend, that you pull out of your pocket, that your insurance company pays towards your health care. And yes, we recognize that certain times of our life, there are greater numbers that are spent in health care than in other times. But we realize that oftentimes there are big choices. Now, according to the CDC, 4.1 trillion, almost 90% of our overall healthcare dollars are spent on chronic disease processes. Now let's understand, chronic disease processes are bad choices. Things that we have brokenness within our body that is there not for a day, not for a decade, but for the rest of our life. And in fact, when we talk about chronic disease processes, we realize that in the end, those chronic disease processes, when treated allopathically, carry with them at least one medication per chronic disease process. The average American in the United States is presently suffering from over 4.5 chronic disease processes. Now that takes into account that some individuals out there, and some of you who are under chiropractic care for most of your life, you've never ever experienced a chronic disease process. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, chronic pulmonary issues, whether we're talking about diabetes, obesity, we recognize that these chronic disease processes require us to spend the rest of our lives battling. And there's individuals out there that are suffering not with just one or two chronic disease processes, but with much more than 4 for us to come to that average number. And the sad thing is that people are living their life thinking that as long as they take a pill, as long as they're capable of removing the body signals, that everything is okay. Shake your head, because that's just not the case. Because in the end, by squashing that signal, we're just simply allowing the system to continue to worsen with time. In fact, we realize that oftentimes what ends up happening is we'll see other chronic disease processes creeping in because of the side effects from the medications. Now, I love this research study by Ralph Keeney on the leading causes of death in the United States. And if you're a patient at the Limerick Chiropractic Center, you've probably have heard us refer to this before, that the leading cause of death in the United States is poor decision making. See, sadly, it does. It goes hand in hand with the fact that, you know what, when we make those really bad decisions, we have to pay the price for them sooner or later. Now, ultimately, the loss is the fact that we lose the longevity in our life. We don't have those years that we're capable of, participating with our family, having adventures, getting out there. In fact, oftentimes what ends up happening is people just stop living life. They live their life by the armchair or the couch. You'll see them sitting on the porch and never leaving the porch, because that's as far as they can go without experiencing some type of a problem. And sadly, we realize, there's an intentionality in making the decisions that lead to those breakdowns. And yes, I said there's an intentionality. We talked about bad habits in the office last week, and for many of you who were not here in the office, I realize you missed a great conversation on breaking up with bad habits. Our in-house workshops are not put on Facebook Live. They're not put on our YouTube channel. So when you do have the opportunity for being in-house for those discussions, I would encourage you to make it a point to be here for those. Not only do we get to talk about, things a little bit differently, have robust conversation, but on top of it, we get to play games and have a little bit of fun as we're going through this learning process. But we talked about, in breaking up with bad habits, that there's an intentionality. We make that intentional decision to do different things, or to not do different things, to consume different foods. But everything boils down to being a choice. And that's the key ingredient, is in making these decisions, taking the time in order to think about those better choices. Because that ounce of prevention is going to save us 10 pounds of that cure. We realize that it's so much easier. The best problem that we can have is not to have a problem at all. The sad thing is that each and every one of us out there, we've been there. We've made that bad decision and we've regretted it. Trust me, I've done it myself. There are building projects that I have stepped into that I thought I knew exactly what needed to be done. And then that one thing went wrong. And the sad thing is that one small misstep cost me hours of time, cost me dollars and cents in order to rebuild and repair. And we've had that. You probably have had that in your life, where you've had a project that has gone sideways. Or maybe it was one of those decisions that you made about the habits of the things that you consume, the things that you put into or onto your body. And the sad thing is that sooner or later, those basic choices become that habit that we constantly go back to. It literally becomes a ritual in our life where it's impossible to break from it because we're on autopilot. We just naturally pick and choose soda as opposed to water. Or we pick coffee as opposed to drinking water. You see, after a while, our brain just wires and fires to those choices and we don't even think about them. So oftentimes, as we get to sit down and actually plan out our choices, we get to operate from a sense of power because we get to make that better choice. We get to decide for ourselves and we get to choose how it is we're going to set ourselves up for success. And I would encourage each and every one of you to think wisely, about the choices that we make. Now, I love the fact that, our body was just simply designed to help us to make those better choices. And I love this chart. It describes, the master system of your body, your nervous system. In Gray's Anatomy, it talks about how the central nervous system was the first system of your body to form. In fact, every system before formed because your nervous system commanded it to. On this chart, you get to see the fact that, hey, listen, part of this system, it causes your body to accelerate, move faster. You have another portion, it's designed to slow you down, to calm you down. And it's a wonderful thing. And you have this innate intelligence, this inborn intelligence that you don't even have to think about how it is. You're going to make that decision. Your body is making the decision on its own. But there's one caveat. And that caveat is the fact that you have to make sure that that communication is happening at 100%. And yes, that's where you and I come in to be able to help our body be able to perform the way it was designed to perform by making the better choice for ourselves. Unfortunately, we have these conditions. They're called subluxations. When the bone comes out of its normal place, puts pressure on the nerve, and in turn causes the tissues, the organs, the systems that it's connected to not to work at 100%. Now, as I said, I love those definitions. Not only that state of wholeness, that wellness, but on top of it, our body working at 100%. Anything less than 100% is a state of dis-ease, lack of ease. And any of you out there who's ever had a headache, you've had that sense of, heaviness, you can't focus on anything. So if in fact that nervous system of yours is choking off the signal to these different tissues, why would we expect that level of stress wouldn't promote tissues not to work the way they're supposed to? Oh yeah, by the way, your body doesn't care. It doesn't care whether you're, 2 years old, 2 days old, or 90 years old. All it knows is that when we have the breakdown in communication, bad things happen. Now, the great thing is as a chiropractor, we have that opportunity of helping you just simply get out of your own way. As a chiropractor, we do absolutely no healing whatsoever. But it all starts with that choice of showing up to do the hard work, to present yourself, to make sure that your body is getting checked. In life, that's the most important thing that we could possibly do. In fact, when you walk through a chiropractor's door, I want you to realize it's not to get adjusted. It's to make sure that your system is getting tested, that you're getting checked. In the moment of getting checked, your chiropractor knows what's that next most right step. Now, real big key here is the educational process. I love the fact that, by you just watching this video, you're demonstrating, you're doing something that only 10% of the United States population does, which is educating themselves on their health, so that they're able to make those better healthcare choices. I say this very simply. These workshops are designed to get you to stop doing some of the really bad things that are making your problem worse or keeping you stuck where you're at. They're also designed to help give you those good and better choices so that in the end, you're capable of maintaining this body easier and keeping that level of health as vibrant as possible. But they're all choices, and they're all choices that you get to make. Now, I recognize, most people think that, in the end, that the choices don't matter. Well, the sad thing is here in our office, we get to experience, we get to see how those choices really do matter. And when we think that, hey, listen, all I have to do is have surgery everything will be okay. You know what? That'll solve all my problems if, in fact, I have this cut out. If I have this piece of stuff put into my body, everything's going to be okay. Yeah, it'll take time to go through the healing process, but everything will be okay. Sadly, we know that's not 100% true. We recognize that we have been gifted with a system, with a body that is second to none. And anytime we as man step in and start to try and change or use something artificial inside this body of ours, we realize the outcome isn't always the way we desire it. See, sadly, I see a lot of people who've been to the pain management specialist and have had injections into their spine. And yes, we have seen those individuals who, unfortunately, have had the side effects. They've nicked the nerve. They've deadened the nerve that's coming out of the level. And the pain is just as bad, if not worse. Or the individuals who have had spinal surgery that, sadly, based upon, success for surgeries, is either in the same pain or more pain after the surgery itself. Joint replacements that have gone wrong, that need to be replaced. Things that unfortunately cannot be undone. My desire for each and every one of you is to recognize that prevention and maintenance is the absolute key to success for maintaining your better health. And in closing today, my ask of you is just one simple thing, is to share with me what it is that you desire to work on in order to help yourself be able to experience that better level of health. Now, some of you might be changes in your diet. Maybe it's losing weight. Maybe it's the increase in exercise. For some of you, maybe it's the understanding of those choices of how do I step away from having to be locked into taking medications? What can I do to improve my system so that I can walk away? Each and every one of you out there has that goal, has that objective of improving your health. Share with me. What is that? As always, I am always going to ask you to like these videos. Share them with your Facebook community. Because in the end, as we share the truths of how it is that we help improve our bodies, increase that vitality, we get that opportunity to raise up others around us. We get to give them hope that they're not stuck. And we never know how far reaching what we are going to share is going to help somebody else. But what we do know is that they too have the opportunity of making better choices and investing in themselves for better health. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker at the Limerick Chiropractic Center.